If you've seen in a previous video, I broke down the 5 mistakes that most fashion entrepreneurs do when they're creating their clothing brand. And the last one was not having a realistic budget for their startup costs. So I'm gonna solve that for you. Hi, I'm Annie. I have 18 years of experience in the fashion industry from sourcing, design, development, and production, and I am here to help you create your fashion brand. What do we need, first off, when it comes to budgeting for your fashion brand? Bare minimum at the very beginning are your business startup costs. Things like business registration, licenses, that includes things like your DBA registration, which that's a city thing. So depending on what city you're in, it may cost you $20, may cost you $50. It just depends on the city. Your business licenses, again, another city thing, as well as your EIN and your sales permit. Plenty of times before, and I hope I've really been able to ingrain into you how important these things are. That's trademarking at the very least, your name for your brand to make sure that no one else can use that brand. The fees for trademark is $350. That's a federal thing. When it comes to LLCs are pretty straightforward, I think, but if you wanted to, you can have an accountant do it, a lawyer do it. I have had people do LLCs through places again like LegalZoom because they're pretty straightforward. I'm in California, so when you're starting LLC in California, you have to pay an $800 a year franchise tax, and that's the bare minimum, and it goes up from there with your sales. $70 for articles of incorporation and $20 for filing of statement of information. So you just need to check with your state when you have your brand name and you know it's a name that you can use. I always recommend that you want to go ahead and buy your domain name because you don't want to go through the whole development process, be ready to have production, only to find out that somebody's already taken your website name. One of the things you can do is you can also hire a brand identity agency, a branding agency to help you with this. This is going to cost you quite a bit, but the nice thing about having a branding agency is that they do the market research for you to develop your brand's identity, colors, your logo, your visual style guide, your messaging. I really find that the biggest thing would be the market research that they do, because that can give you a little bit of a jump and be more focused creating your designs and what market you're going to go for. You can work with graphic designers that work in branding agencies but are freelancers, so you can go from $500 for hiring a graphic designer to like piecemeal things for you. Or you can go ahead and hire a branding agency, which a lot of times they start at 10K plus. Now your next portion is quite literally, I think, the most important portion, is because this is your research and design portion. I find it really funny that people want to have high-end brands, but then they don't want to spend more than $10 an hour on their designer. Your designs are what people are buying. If your hire per hour matches, the experience they have, it's gonna be much more worth it for you to hire somebody that is a higher price range. And so you can do one of two things. You can hire a designer, anywhere between $50 to $200+ an hour, and can help you throughout the process from sourcing, development, and production. They would do a design concept for you, however many hours they need to dedicate, and you can really reduce these amount of hours with the more homework you do. I guess the ballpark you can say would be like 5 hours per design for design concepts. And then with the designer, what they would do afterwards would be to create your tech pack. So after you approve designs, you've gone back and forth, done all the revisions and everything, and obviously they're going to be charging you hourly for the amount of revisions you ask for. Then they will start to do your tech packs, and that is where the meat and potatoes is going to be when it comes to getting things ready for your factory, right? Tech pack can take 4+ hours depending on how complicated the tech pack is. The alternative that you can do, if you are looking to kind of reduce your design costs, you can do that kind of hybrid thing. That way you have a designer you work with that's a little bit on a more affordable range for you, and then you're having a consultant that's probably working for less hours for you because they're just double checking and just consulting with you. It just depends on how much work you put on them, will depend on how many hours you do, right? So you also could have a graphic designer that specializes in prints in case you want to do graphic artwork on like t-shirts or things like that, or if you have specific art for fabrics. So the next is going to be your fabric and material sourcing. So there are two ways you can go about this. You can have either your fashion designer or your fashion consultant, whoever you want to have, go out and source fabrics for you based on the designs that you've created. They could be going to fabric stores, they could go to trade shows and everything, but finding those fabrics that work with your designs and really create a unique design for you. You can hire somebody to do that. Again, their hours could be between 50 to 200 plus hours, and it's really hard for most people to be able to estimate for you how long it's going to take for them to find that fabric for you, because it's getting on the pavement, and it's not all a Google search. It's actually going out and feeling and touching fabric and seeing what will work for each design. So you would take those samples that you've purchased, and then you would either cut them up and send them to factories to be able to go source the fabrics for you, the factories that you actually want to start working with. Or if you're doing something where you're doing domestic production, you have to do everything outside of actually cutting and sewing the designs together. So US manufacturers expect you just to give them fabric for you to find it yourself. So for overseas, you would take those samples that you had, you can send it to the factory overseas, and then they can do the sourcing for you. When it comes to sourcing their factories, you would probably want to let your designer or your business consultant do this for you, because if you hired the right person, hopefully that's somebody that has contacts and has experience in the industry and has relationships that they can leverage to find the right factory for you. You would also need to pay the shipping fees, which a lot of times will be a bare minimum $200 from anywhere overseas. And then when you're receiving your samples, always my recommendation to hire a fit model. Fit models usually are between $100 to about $500 an hour, plus you have to add a 20% agency fee. Your fit model is not your photo shoot model. Okay, your fit model is the person that you think will be wearing your clothes. So just know what type of body shape you want for your brand. Okay, and then after you've got all your samples done and you've approved them and you're ready to go with your production, you have to think about what your production costs are going to be. So let's say you're doing a t-shirt and you're doing a small run. A lot of times with overseas, your small runs are going to be between 300 and 500 units per style per color. A t-shirt like this in 4 colors, black, white, heather gray, navy, and the MOQ is 300 units per style per color. That means you're ordering 1,200 units. If each of those units is $6 a unit, that's $7,200 for you to buy this one t-shirt. But you can expect for small MOQ orders something between 5,000 to 15,000 per style. Medium orders can be 15,000 to 50,000, and large orders, which is 5K plus pieces, could be 50 to 200,000. Mostly depends on the complexity of your style, the fabric you're using, and how many colors you're going to be ordering. You have to remember that if you're doing things like custom prints, you have to pay an upfront cost for a mold fee. And then also remember, you have to also pay for trims. The trims are your main labels, any heat transfers, hang tags, poly bags. If you want to add a branded box to it, those are going to be a little different. So those can be anywhere between 10 cents to $2, $5, depending on how elaborate those things are going to be. And then a lot of times people want to talk about quality control with a third-party inspector. So there are a few large companies that are US companies, but they have offices all over the world, and they come into the factory at the end of your production and have your specs and your tech pack in hand, and they do random checks of your production to make sure it meets your standards and what you have in the tech pack. A lot of times those inspections will cost anywhere between $500 to $3,000 plus, depending on how big the production run is. The 3 biggest companies would be Intertech, SGS, and BV. And then once your production is ready to go, you have approved them. If you had a third-party inspector come in to check them out, now it's time to send them to you. So there are a couple ways for you to do this. 3 main ways is one is air, which is going to be your most expensive way. A lot of times that's $5 to $15 per kilogram. You can have ocean, sea freight. It's the longest way to come. And then on top of that, you then have to worry about the duties. So duties to the US could be anywhere between 10 to 25%. From the EU could be 10 to 15%. From the UK could be 20% for VAT plus a 12% duty. And then in addition to your shipping and your duties fees, you're gonna have to pay one-time fees, at least for the first shipment. Usually that costs anywhere between $300 to $1,500 per shipment. And then outside of that, you're having a shipment that's big enough to have it in a warehouse or a fulfillment center. On a small scale, anywhere between $200 to $1,000 a month. So now if you're looking at the total estimate budget, small scale productions anywhere between 500 to 1,000 pieces, could be anywhere between 15,000 to 40,000. Mid-size, which would be 1,000 to 3,000 units, would be anywhere from 40,000 to about 125,000 plus. And then large scales would be anywhere between 125,000 to 500,000 plus. I hope that wasn't too overwhelming. I hope I didn't discourage you from doing your brand. I just want to make sure that you're armed with the information you need to be able to create a well-balanced budget. If you like this content, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions, please comment below. I will answer any questions. I'm happy to do so. If you want to see some more of my content, it'll be right here, and I'll see you at the next one. Thanks, bye.